Hello, everybody. This is me, your friend Rajat Shukla. Here we are at this beautiful place, but today, no, it's not about the place, not about the swimming, but about the most adventurous, the unstoppable. Peter Vangeit,
Hello,
welcome.
glad to be here.
Yeah, it's pleasure having you first of all, and definitely a lot of questions that have come through friends, through your fans.
Okay.
We're looking forward to get some answers from you and some guidance from you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
Okay.
Please shoot.
Okay. Starting, I think the inspiration, what has been the day when the normal lifestyle no more appealed to you and you felt adventure is going to be something that I'm going to do?
I think in 2017, I'd been sitting 2 decades in a corporate cubicle, going to meeting, commuting to office, the daily routine. And at that time, I'd already been running through the Himalayas a couple of years from 2013 onwards. So I had a taste of the freedom, the natural beauty. But always having to go back to the corporate cubicle really was a killer. So at that time, I decided I was not going to live my life another 3 decades in a cubicle. So I just quit my well-paying job and switched to a minimalistic lifestyle and full-time roaming in the mountains free as a free soul finally.
Wow, wow. Your words in itself, as you said, free soul, minimalist, is something that signifies the lifestyle that maybe you have chosen, and definitely something that is inspiring a lot of people now. Uh, Questions that come in are some curious questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so how to deal with wild animals if you encounter? So, because that is something that will surely happen, you visit.
These are the standard questions. So wild animals, I mean, people call them wild, but generally animals are quite peace-loving. They live in their own ecosystem. It's us humans, right, who normally intrude. And let's not forget that we are the cause of extinction on every continent, Australia, America, that we invaded 10,000 years ago. Immediately there was a huge extinction of the bigger animals. So we are actually the wild ones, I would say, on the planet. But in general, I mean, the rules are pretty simple. Avoid surprise, avoid confrontation. So an animal normally will not approach humans because they live within their own food pyramid and ecosystem. Of course, if you surprise them by mistake, if they don't see you coming in a dense forest or because of the noise of a nearby stream, they might feel cornered. If there is a young nearby, they might kind of attack out of self-defense. So always make your presence felt. Make sure the animal sees you coming or hear you coming, and then there won't be any surprise and kind of counter reaction. Animals will normally peacefully go away, whether it's leopards or bears. I've been roaming now for 5 years in the Himalayas. Maybe 10,000 kilometers, 250 passes. I never had any bad experiences, even though I saw so many footprints of so-called wild animals.
Wow. I mean, I think the approach in itself has the answer. That is, you have to treat them the way maybe they should be treated, and that is, don't treat them anything.
Yeah, no aggression,
be on
no
your way.
surprise, so they will peacefully make space.
Yeah. Okay. So for long treks, like, do you carry food or what are your plans?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm an explorer, so I don't go on the well-known routes. So there's always a little bit of uncertainty how long it will take to cross a new pass which has not been traversed before, depending on the weather conditions, the terrain. But I usually estimate the distance to the next human settlement, and I only carry like the minimalistic food ration. So if it will take me 2 days to reach the village on the other side of the pass, I'll just carry 2 days of food. Again, resupply in every settlement. So carry basically the least possible food to optimize my weight, which will allow me to go very fast and very comfortably in a very steep terrain like the Himalayas.
Right, right. Also, do you take help from the locals? As you know, in a lot of photos and videos you have seen, the tribals also, you cook with them, you stay with them.
Not really help in terms of guidance or finding the way, but when you see the locals, it mostly has to do with hospitality. So when you go away from the touristic, the commercial places, you go to these lesser known regions where nobody actually know outsiders will come. You will be the first guy they see maybe in their whole lifetime. So the first reaction of these innocent mountain people is always to kind of feel responsible for you, help you in this quite challenging terrain. I mean, first of all, they think, hey, how did you reach here by
Wow.
yourself? They look, where is the guide? There is no guide. So people are very friendly in terms of guiding you, feeding you, giving you a place to stay.
Wow.
So that's actually, I feel, 50% of the experience. In addition to the natural beauty, also the human beauty, the humanity which kind of we lost in the cities, in our pursuit of materialism and capitalism. The people there are still have a pure soul. Actually, they don't have
Wow.
any expectations. It's unexpected, warm, heartwarming hospitality.
Wow. The more the remote, the real they are still.
The more they are shielded from the modern day global consumption economy.
Aha, aha. That's
money.
that's very 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 happy thing for me to hear. Okay, what if, I mean, any injury happens while you're on the trek? So how do you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I mostly go solo. So if anything happens, like you twist an ankle or you have an injury, you're on your own. Of course, there's nobody to know that anything has happened or to get help. So I would suggest don't go solo unless you build enough experience. It's mostly, as over the years, the more passes you cross, the more experience you get. That is where most of the safety comes from, and most of the fitness and the strength in the legs. That is gonna keep you safe from injuries or unfortunate incidents. So first go with well-known, reputed groups, build experience, then go on yourself, find your own way, but still with a group of friends, minimum 3 people, I would say. So one can stay with you if something happened, the third guy can get help. And once you have reached a certain level, then you can proceed solo. And again, in my journey across 300 high passes in the Himalayas, say from Uttarakhand all the way to Kashmir, nothing severe has ever happened to me. For me, it has been a long journey. I started with hiking, cycling, ultra running. So my legs have been strengthened over many, many years, and now I don't feel anything. It's not a physical thing anymore, it's more like a mental thing. It's mental endurance that keeps you going more than the body or the physical aspect.
Okay, and trails are something that is also a question. Like, there are some very identified trails that you might get, but also times when you don't know that which is the way you're going to go. So what happens? How does your mind work at that time?
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying I'm an explorer, so I don't actually stick to the pilgrim or the commercial routes where some of the commercial hiking groups go. I always prepare myself. I also don't take the local guides. So in that case, you need to do enough work before you start looking at maps. Survey of India has recently released a lot of very interesting maps, a lot of details, human settlements, approximate location of trails, stream crossings, shelters. So when you do enough study actually, and you load all that information offline maps in your phone. Phones have GPSs, so you can identify your position at any time. So that actually allows you to navigate through a new unexplored region with a pretty high success rate. But being a very steep terrain, the Himalayas, you will only really be able to go if the trail is like a used trail, if it's used by shepherds or villagers. Because once the trail has not been used for, like, say, 5 to 10 years, the Himalayas are so fragile and so ever-changing terrain that landslides and wild streams quickly erase, jungles overgrow existing trails. So always stick to like used trails, I would say, and carry maps with you as a reference to know the way.
Okay, okay. So there are a few gears and equipments that you definitely have to carry, and which is the minimum, or maybe if you carry will be great.
So if we talk about the essentials, there are a couple of categories. One is, of course, your night shelter, which is basically your tent and your sleeping bag to stay warm, especially in the night when the temperatures drop steeply. Again, especially when you go in winter, there's a big difference between day and night temperatures. That's one. Secondly, clothing. I'm pretty minimalist on this. What you see here in South, t-shirt and dry fit shorts is what I use in the Himalayas. I go fast, being an ultra runner as my background, so that keeps generating enough warm actually to keep your body warm. You keep a puff jacket and a rain jacket when it gets windy and rainy. You will definitely want to stay warm and dry. If you get wet there in the high passes, it's really dangerous. And then of course you have good shoes. I don't use boots as a runner. Again, I use trail shoes, lightweight and comfortable, minimalist shoes. And then, depending on the terrain where you go, if you go to more technical sections, you carry some hiking poles, which will give you 4 points of contact in addition to your legs, which gives you a lot of stability on like landslide prone slopes, on crossing streams, going steep up the stream, steep up the snow. So ice axe and hiking poles, these are like the two technical things to really go over more challenging terrain. So these are the main categories that I carry, nothing else. And then of course the food, which is just minimalist, village to village. You don't carry 1 week of food because food can be very heavy. You don't carry water actually. Water again is available everywhere in the stream. So every 2-3 hours you cross a stream and you simply drink from the natural water in the stream, melt water from a glacier or snow.
Okay, if I were to ask you, like, what food? Like, do you take packaged foodstuffs or energy
so
bars?
it depends on the duration. Like as you say, Uttarakhand, Himachal, Kashmir, there are a lot of human settlements. So you're crossing to the next settlement, even if you go over a high range through a pass, will never be more than 1 or 2 days. So 48 hours. With that, you can easily, you don't have to cook. You just pack up some whatever locally available food, aloo parotas, rice, chapatis,
Whoa.
momos. It'll stay good in that cool climate.
That's fun.
Only when you go, like, say, to Zanskar, Ladakh, where you have, like, long, in no man's land, like 5-6 days till you reach the next point there, you usually carry something to cook, which is like a lightweight aluminium plate. You carry some kerosene or camphor. You pick up some dry yak poop or horse poop along the way, sprinkle it with some kerosene and make a small fire, then cook some, say, white oats or a little bit of rice for day 3 and beyond, because any freshly packed food will typically spoil or get too hot. Even rotis will get too hot on the 3rd day.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, you definitely record all of this stuff. So, you carry your gadgets. But there are times when your journey goes like beyond 2 days, 3 days. So, how do you keep up with it?
Yeah, so recording and navigation is fully done electronics. Basically, with a standard Android or iPhone, you have some. Most of the navigation these days is done with OpenStreetMaps. Google Maps, they work in cities and highways. Got a small landslide. But once you step in the trail in the mountains, then you use OpenStreetMaps, which gives you a lot of useful information on trails, on again human settlements. My team also recently mapped during the lockdown some 30,000 remote settlements across the Western Himalayas, which are essential for guidance, for night stay, for shelter in the night, and for food resupply. So when charging those electronics, yeah, you put your phone in flight mode because you don't have network. So that gives you usually 2 days of battery, and I carry another 10,000 mAh power bank, which gives me another 3-4 days, which basically gives me 5 to 6 days independence, and that's more than enough.
Okay. And I mean, it's very essential to know that the decision that if you see a risk, so is it calculative or you make it like let's try?
As you get a little bit older, a young person might go a little bit more to the risk side of the spectrum. As you get a little bit older and experienced, you make more calculated decisions. Having spent more than probably 10,000 kilometers in the Himalayas since 2017 when I quit the corporate world. Now I'm pretty good in assessing the stream crossing, this water level. The force of the water is a little too risky in like peak summer when it's maximum meltwater. So a landslide, steep snow, frozen snow gully that you have to cross where one slip would get you 500 meters down into the valley. So you make more calculated, and you don't take unnecessary risk because it's better to, even if you have to take a U-turn and go back 3 days, it's better to do that than and still exploring for the next 3 decades than sliding down in the valley and that will be game over.
Okay, now I think these many questions and the answers that you have given has certainly been a lot enough for the people who are following you and also the fans, but also for the people whom you want to inspire, who are not into adventures, who are leading a very simple life, a life which has the materialistic goals, as you say. To them, what would you say? Like, what is something that you get in the rush of swimming, hiking, running, trail finding, mountaineering? What would you like to say?
Yeah, I think first of all we have to remember that all of us now we have comfortable city lives, a lot of comfort. We just call Swiggy, we get Ola, Uber, So everything is given to us on a platter, which is comfortable, but be aware that comfort is actually a slow killer. People who don't move, who don't do physical activities, who don't sweat anymore, like our forefathers used to do. Let's not forget that we all used to be foragers. Gathering our food even before we settled down in our agriculture. We used to run in the forest, catch animals, catch berries and nuts, basically. And we had a very active lifestyle, and that's something that's programmed in our DNA for like hundreds of thousands of years. Only in the last 200 years, I would say, even last 1 or 2 generations would have been a farmer somewhere, probably in India. India agriculture was a big thing. So maybe only the last generation has become very stagnant in their lifestyle, combined with fast food. And you can see the number one killer these days is like not any virus, it's basically the lifestyle. Unhealthy food and inactivity is basically leading to heart attacks, obesity, sugar issues. A lot of young kids are suffering from these modern day diseases. So I would really suggest, for your own good, stay active 4 or 5 times a week. Just go for anything you like. You can go swimming, you can go playing cricket, badminton, jogging, go for a run, whatever. Stay active for 4 or 5 times a week. Break the sweat, raise the heartbeat, and you will see it has, after you do this for a couple of weeks and months, you will feel it. Life will be different. You will feel better, you will sleep better, you will eat better. And as you build up this fitness level, you can do amazing things. And if anybody there in the audience can do the stuff that I do with a regular fitness routine, in addition, balanced with your modern day city life.
Okay, and one question I had to ask you. 1998 was the year when you came to India. Okay, since then till now, I think there certainly would be some liking about India that has kept you here. And like if you have to place in some pointers, what are those likings?
If you come from a developed place like Europe, Western Europe especially, life is so developed there. It's all cities, roads. Life is very organized, rules. One thing I like about India is its rawness, its virginity. It's still wild. You have beautiful nature. It's also a huge place. It's almost like a continent where you have a high diversity of deserts of Rajasthan, the tea estates in Kerala, the high mountains of the Himalayas. So India has a lot of natural beauty which is still unexplored. It's not like all the hiking routes are not like properly marked like in the Alps in Europe. So it's much more satisfying, and it's much more confident building to actually go to the Himalayas here, make your own way, find your own way, meet these amazing mountain tribes and shepherds, that humanity which you don't feel to the same extent anymore in a developed place where people have accustomed to so much and have lost some of their souls in all the materialism that they have been pursuing.
Okay, one last question, and this comes from the very basic and the most biggest population of, the people I have known. They say that we are having responsibility. We have to earn. We have to take care of the family. I mean, even you certainly would have seen that transition in your life. So how did you, or how can these people really cope up with that responsibilities about the family and also include adventure in their life?
Yeah, I've seen it as part of our Chennai trekking club. People who used to come very regular with me after they finish college, get into a job. As soon as they get married, they disappear from the face of the planet. Which is very sad actually, because if you go in Europe, you see people, young couples, freshly married couples with little kids, still having an active lifestyle. They carry the kids along with them in the mountains. So I think it's more the culture and the mindset that in India there is so much of social stigma here. And once you have, it's all about studies, it's about work, then it's about career, then getting married, and then as soon as possible the kids have to come. So it's a little bit kind of routine, and there is very little space left out of this routine of social expectations to still live your own life and not the life that others expect from you. So I would say balance it. You don't need to quit your job like me, that's maybe a little too extreme. But out of 365 days or 52 weekends in a year, I think it doesn't hurt maybe once a month or once in 2 months actually to go for a 1 or a 2 day hike. And at least stay a little bit in touch with your natural side, because eventually all of us have evolved from nature over millions of years, and simply cutting that primal connection with nature and just staying 100% in a concrete city, that's not going to be healthy in the long term. So have a balanced life, be active, I mean, with something small 4 or 5 times a week, and once in a month at least go for a weekend outing, whatever, a small hike. Get in the mountains and nature, and you will be surprised how much of physical and mental positivity you'll receive of that 2-day hike in close to nature.
Okay, one question that I think you have been a great example. Anyway, I am trying to be a minimalist, traveling without money. So survival without money, how does it sound, and how practical can that be?
Now, one thing that I've seen once I switched it from the city life to the mountains is that once you go to the mountains, automatically life becomes a bit minimalist. Once you go in the mountains, there's very few ways to spend money there, right? In the cities, it's all about consumerism, capitalism. But once you go in the mountains, you travel with your own feet. You carry your tent with you, so there's no travel expense, there's no stay expense. The only expense you have is food. Food is pretty cheap. It's like 50 rupees for a plate of momos in a non-commercial place. And in general, based on my experience out of, say, 3 months in the Himalayas, 50-60% of the time, even the food expense almost falls away, because you typically end up with some very nice people who will be happy to guide you, feed you, and give you shelter. So in that way, living in the mountains, again, away from the commercial places, that's the key. Go away from touristic places, find your own way, get familiar with maps, and you'll have very less money actually to spend, need money to spend in those places. So life in the mountains is pretty cheap. That should, financially, it should not be a boundary actually to prevent you from going for longer trips in nature.
All right, all right. So with this, we come to the end of this interview, and really thanks for you giving us so much of time and so much of knowledge. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah, nice being here.
Thank you.